Yeah, we've got some sequences for you this week.
And the first one we have is Adaptation-Executers, not Fitness Maximizers, which it sticks in your mind and it helps to... it was a thing that helped change my view on how humans work by a fair bit when I first read it, although I was still pretty young when I first read it. But I think this is a really handy one.
It stuck with me. I think it's one of those ones that has a pithy title, even if it's lots of syllables, and you remember often enough to implement that. Some of them are somewhat esoteric or whatever, and oh yeah, I remember reading that before, but then you forget about it a year later.
Mm-hmm.
This one I never forgot, so...
It is actually important to have, like, memorable and descriptive titles for that purpose, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The sequences tend to be pretty good at that.
The title of this one is the TLDR.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yep.
Animals are adaptation-executors, not fitness maximizers.
Exactly.
So when you see an animal doing something that doesn't look like it makes sense for its reproductive fitness, ask yourself, would that sort of behavior be adaptive to its ancestors? And often the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the example they start with is just food and the fact that micronutrients that were really abundant in leaves and nuts are absent from bread, but our taste buds will complain. A soup of ice cream is a super stimulus containing more sugar, fat, and salt than anything in the ancestral environment. So, like, basically...
Our taste buds picked up on the things that were really rare and make us want to seek those out.
Yeah,
and
like...
so we don't notice when we're not getting micronutrients because we didn't have that problem limiting us in the, in the distant past, but we did have problems of caloric restriction limiting us. So that's why we adapted to seek those things out.
Yeah, like, getting into, real quick, the book, The Hungry Brain, Stephen Goyenet, he goes even deeper into that, where specifically we have little buttons on our tongue that tell us when things are salty, meaty, sugary, or fatty, and these are the things that turn off our, what is it called? Satiety center in our brain, the part that tells you that you're full. And then, like, we as a society are like, why this obesity epidemic? Like, but meanwhile, we've also invented McDonald's, which just cranks out for incredibly cheap, like, the highest, like, most hypothalamically exciting food.
They have 100 billion served. You have to respect that.
Wait, have they started to colonize the stars already, or?
No, it's a reference from Worth the Candle.
Well, and it's a fact.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's not that they've served every person on Earth. They've served, on average, more than whatever, right?
Yeah.
I didn't say
I have
that
eaten
correctly.
McDonald's more than once in my life, so
Right.
I count as more than one as part of the 100 billion.
Yeah.
I find
Yeah,
it
not
funny
100
that,
billion people served, 100 billion meals delivered, right,
Yeah.
to customers.
Yeah.
Okay. Shit, I had something funny for this. It's gone. Never mind, sorry.
But you'll find it in like 30 seconds. That's what always happens to me.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, sorry. I thought it would come back when I started the sentence.
Yeah, it's all good. It's probably something about sex. All the funny things in life are about sex.
Or pooping, apparently.
Or pooping, yeah.
I just, like, rewatched all of Rick and Morty, and I was just
Nice.
like, there's way more poop jokes in this than I remember.
Yeah. All right. So going on, he says, no human being with the deliberate goal of maximizing their alleles' inclusive genetic fitness would ever eat a cookie unless they were starving. But individual organisms are best thought of as adaptation executors, not fitness maximizers. Where do taste buds come from? Not from an intelligent designer visualizing their consequences, but from a frozen history of ancestry. Adam liked sugar and ate an apple and reproduced. But the objective consequence of this is that in the modern first world, the desire to eat more chocolate, the plan to eat more chocolate, eating more chocolate leads to getting fat, leads to getting fewer dates, which leads to reproducing less successfully. Because we're not maximizing our fitness, we're executing adaptations from the past.
And the funny thing is that people crave chocolate because in its natural form, cacao, like, I actually just eat raw cacao nibs, and they are considered a superfood, so if you ran into a cacao pod in the ancestral environment, it would have been, like, just tons of nutrients, a bit of caffeine, theobromide, like... But then we, like, as a society, came along and we're like, but what if we added milk and sugar to this?
Mm-hmm.
And then what if we just took the cacao out of it entirely and made it a chocolate-flavored candy?
Yeah.
I tried cacao nibs after that episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and they're disgusting.
I love them, but I also like bitter, weird things, so, yeah.
I remember the funny thing about super stimuli food.
Yeah.
And I don't remember if it was a shower thought on Reddit or if it was like a picture of a tweet, but it was like, the average nacho cheese Dorito contains more explosive nacho cheese flavor than a king could have ever enjoyed in his lifetime.
I saw that post too. It was like,
And I think that's true, right?
It must be.
I think it
there
was
was an
just-
explosive nacho cheese flavor 300 years ago.
well, yeah, I think it was specifically saying at like one single Dorito contains more spices than like the average English peasant in, I forget whatever century, would have ever experienced in their life.
Oh, really?
So
Okay.
you got like a real version of that kind of thought. This was just a funny, stupid one about like nacho cheese flavor.
Yeah. To riff off your bitter weird things, I only like bitter weird things when they're hot people.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Well, I have that one too, so.
Okay. Alrighty, but yeah, that was it's short, sweet, and sticks in your head. The next one is Evolutionary Psychology, which again, the should have had Wes on here for this. It starts out.
Still can.
No, that's a little late for at this
Well,
point.
not for this one, but
Yeah.
if the listeners are interested in hearing us like argue with Wes about whether or not evolutionary psychology is valid, like let us know in the Discord /Reddit /other places where you can leave comments.
Especially if we have an EvoPsych expert.
That would be cool.
It would, and if nothing else, it would be fun for us. Which I'm always for doing things that are fun for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It starts out, the phrase reproductive organ is redundant. All organs are reproductive organs. Where do birds' wings come from? An evolution of birds fairy who thinks that flying is really neat? The birds' wings are there because they contributed to the bird's ancestral reproduction.
And this observation also holds true of the brain, the most complex organ known to biology. Some brain organs are directly reproductive, like lust. Others are indirectly reproductive, like anger.
Yes.
He just used the C word. Well, one of the C words.
Which
Complex.
Complexity.
Yeah.
Well, but he's not saying complexity is the answer. He's just saying this organ is complex, which I think is,
Yeah.
obviously true.
It doesn't give me much. I nitpicking for no reason. I like the so before like the EvoPsych part of this, I like just the this was a lot of stuff that I became exposed to during like the new atheism days and all the talk of whatever intelligent design, blind watchmaker, etc.,
Oh
etc.
yeah, one of their like big talking points for a while was that biology is just infinitely complex. So complex that it must have been designed, and there's no way we could ever possibly understand it, which means that a god must have done it.
Right. What use is half an eye? And like they didn't understand that
Turns
evolution.
out pretty useful. Turns out
Turns
pretty
out-
useful.
yeah, like,
It turns out,
having
yeah.
like
Evolution.
1/100th of an eye is better than having 0 eyes.
That's right. And evolution in reverse isn't best simulated by like taking an existing eyeball and cutting it in half.
Right.
So you think of like what use is it to have vague photoreceptors? Well, kind of helpful if you see a shadow move over you and you're some stupid organism that just knows to flee at that, right?
Twitch when the lighting changes.
I wouldn't call that a stupid organism. That's the one that survived and reproduced, probably.
It's stupid compared to Steven.
Yeah. And
Ooh, that was a little mean.
No, it was mean to the organism.
stupid
Steven's really
compared to
smart.
Steven.
Or,
Yeah.
okay, then I just sort of heard that in reverse in my head and was like, "Whoa, that's not a character."
funny.
Idiot.
I heard it in reverse too, and still agreed with it. So I don't know what this says about me and the stupid organism. Am I the stupid organism all along?
Back on the topic. Oh man, sorry, just aside, that reminds me of people that would like write into Slate Star Codex being really worried that their IQ wasn't high enough. And I did a bunch of statistics on it, and it seems like it's just like, friend,
You did
Please read what you
statistics on
just wrote.
something. Yeah.
the fact that you read this blog and know enough to be worried about this means that you're probably good.
But you were going to say something about reproductive biology and the new atheism wars?
That was basically just it about because he's talking about like where do wings come from and stuff, and like having half a wing is kind of like whatever, like flying squirrels, right?
Penguins.
And, yeah. Well, penguins.
They use them to swim.
Yeah, they've got that.
Sorta.
That's. I guess I was just thinking of like when you're thinking about like flying. I can imagine in 2 million years squirrels that can fly by flapping their appendages, right?
Bats?
It'd be weird. Well, I'm just thinking like existing flying squirrels, give them 2 million years of accelerated evolution, and then see what they look like. That's how wings came to be, right? Turns out gliding is useful, and then gliding is part of flying. So
Saw the I guess not new at this point, but it was new to me a few years ago. Idea that wings helped with running too, and so a lot of the original use of wings could have been just to aid in fleeing from predators.
Like increasing, just like running and flapping your arms
Yeah, I guess
increases
so.
your momentum,
Apparently.
or lets you like leap
maybe
longer.
your control too. Like if you can raise one arm up for draft and take a hard left turn or something, right?
I suppose.
Yeah. Ostriches are dangerous and they can go at high speeds, so...
Ostriches are descendants of, like, the biggest predator after the Tyrannosaurus Rex, the terror bird.
Cool.
And cassowaries.
They're fierce.
Birds are dinosaurs.
Yes.
All right.
So he continues on to say that the neural architecture or the neural circuitry of anger is a reproductive organ as surely as your liver. Anger exists in Homo sapiens because angry ancestors had more kids. And this goes back to the previous 2 episodes that we were talking about with evolution, that if it exists in you, it exists because it led to your ancestors having more kids. There's no other way it could have gotten there, italicized.
But hold on. Are you saying that when I'm angry, I'm subconsciously trying to have children? That's not what I'm thinking about after someone punches me in the face.
Well, you think you're not thinking that, but you are. No, his answer is no, no, bold no, all caps no with an exclamation point. The cause of an adaptation, the shape of an adaptation, and the consequence of an adaptation are all separate things.
This will tie in nicely to today's episode, actually.
That usually ends up happening by accident, and that's kind of cool.
Could it just be that all the sequences apply pretty well to most things?
It could be. Or, we're rationalists, so we'd like things that are kind of interesting in this domain. Yeah.
Yeah. The human brain, in addition to being an artifact historically produced by evolution, is also a mind capable of bearing its own intentions, purposes, desires, goals, and plans. Cognitive causes are ontologically distinct from evolutionary causes. They're made out of a different kind of stuff. Cognitive causes are made of neurons. Evolutionary causes are made of ancestors.
Yeah, and so therefore the cognitive cause of your anger is something that's happened in front of you that makes you feel angry, and therefore you take a certain action. But the evolutionary cause of why you have that circuitry is because people who had that happen to them and trigger, violence or whatever it is that their anger triggers, motivation to do something about it, had more children. And so that is a different cause in ontological sense than, seeing something and having your neurons process it as outrageous.
Yeah, and I like to think of this as, like, taking anger as an example. It's there for a reason, and the reason is, like, a bunch of... Like, you can just keep saying that there's a reason beneath that reason. So it's not like, I don't know, when I first encountered the idea that, like, humans do art and dance and poetry and philosophy to get laid, and I was just like, no, that makes everything meaningless. And, like, first of all, no, like, just because it's there for a reason doesn't mean that we can't value it for its own sake. In fact, as a species, we clearly value things more than just reproducing. Like, we invented condoms and birth control for, like...
I think he actually, yeah.
So we can do more, art and dance and music. Yeah. So, but also, like, anger is there because someone punched you in the face, and that could be, like, needing to be able to get angry enough to defend yourself will let you survive, or, like, protect your friends and loved ones. Or it, like, creates greater social cohesion if people can't get away with going around punching people in the face because they know that people are going to punch them back, so it makes us have more coherent societies, which leads to you people having more children. And
as a reminder, it is an adaptation execution, not necessarily a fitness maximization, so even though it may have been adaptive in the past, it may not be adaptive anymore to be violent and or angry or whatever. So
yeah, we're probably miscalibrated in, like, 2021 for how angry we should be at each other.
Yeah.
Road rage, for example.
Yes. Anger may be far less adaptive now than it was in the ancestral environment. And as an example of that, he takes Stalin. Somewhere in Stalin's brain, there were neural circuits that rewarded pleasurably the exercise of power, and circuits that detected anticipations of increases and decreases in power. If there were nothing in Stalin's brain that correlated to power, no little light that went on for political command and off for political weakness, then how would Stalin's brain have known to be corrupted by power? And this was during commenting on the whole, power corrupts people thing. Like, how would brains know to be corrupted by power if it didn't have that sort of...
Apparently being corrupted by power is good for reproductive fitness.
Can
Genghis Khan.
But, yeah, right? But certainly not a thing that we want to encourage anymore.
At least in the evil dictator way. Like, wanting power, becoming a really great politician, and getting lots of notoriety for, like, being... the best president ever is not something that I think we'd want to discourage.
I think we can all agree that being corrupted by power by being the best podcasters is definitely a thing we want to encourage.
Yes.
I
wanted to try to do maniacal laugh. Okay, but I was gonna say, but like Idiosh is probably better at that than me. Thank you.
Sure.
You don't really get good at it until you sit at home alone and practice, and then you feel just as crazy as possible.
You got to do it in front of a mirror.
Yeah.
I feel like that actually probably would be fun, like for increasing like self-esteem, to just sort of like practice evil laughter.
Yeah, maniacally laugh on the drive home. It'll be really funny.
Life hack, guys.
Yeah.
What are we reading next time?
Next time, we will be talking about protein reinforcement and DNA consequentialism, and Thou Art Godshatter.